If you've been anywhere near social media in the past year, you've definitely begun seeing the uptick in people sharing the sentiment that Disney is going downhill. Fast. From box office bombs to actor and writer strikes, to just an overall consensus that the output has been poor. Everything seemed to reach a boiling point with the release of their newest animated feature made to celebrate the company's 100th anniversary. Wish.
I clean up all your messes, and I'm always there when you need to vent.
And what a celebration it's been. Now, this has left a lot of people to wonder, how is this happening to Disney? One of the biggest corporations in the world. Just why? I've been seeing folks try and find someone to blame for this left and right. From the money-hungry CEOs making these decisions, all the way to the folks who choose not to give Disney any money for subpar products. You're telling me you didn't want to give this innocent little mega corporation your hard-earned money for the high cinematic masterpiece that was Indiana Jones 5? Well, I guess you're just an awful, awful person. I mean, it would make sense if it was something like, oh, I don't know, you not buying the limited edition Ellis marketable figure that's only available for one more week before it goes away forever, then you're an awful person. Comes a little dog. But it's not just as simple as saying a movie's bad, like, comment, subscribe. Although you should do all those things. Instead, what I think we're seeing here is simply the culmination of the past 3 to 4 years of dumbfounded decision making. And so today I thought, hey, let's go over everything going on with Disney's film division right now, why they're struggling so badly, and why, ultimately, I believe their 2024 is going to be just as bad, if not worse. So as of right now, Disney has released 7 major films this year. There are others they've had a hand in distributing that I'm sure no one has heard of, like Next Goal Wins, and smaller stuff they're doing through Fox like The Boogeyman. Well, let's focus on their tentpole releases for now. The movies that are supposed to make their year. What gives the CEOs their Christmas bonus? Those 7 consisting of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, The Little Mermaid, Elemental, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Haunted Mansion, The Marvels, and finally Wish. Now I want to start this by showing you all the box office results of all these films. Not that bad, huh? Well, now I want to show you the box office results for all these films, when put up right against the budgets.
Barely made it.
Not a stellar now, is it? Now, this isn't even counting the advertising, which can double the budget at times, but it's clear here, none of these movies were smash hits or anything. Except for you. Why did these movies perform so poorly? How are we living in a world where Captain Marvel can make $1 billion, yet only 4 years later Captain Marvel 2 is the studio's biggest bomb ever? And it really comes down to 3 main things that I will break down right now. 1. Who the fuck wanted a Haunted Mansion reboot? Did you even know a Haunted Mansion reboot was a thing? I know Danny DeVito's in it. Disney, for the better part of a decade, has been remaking countless older films from their library. Films they knew were a success back then, and hoped to double the profits for with an up-to-date retelling. And while generally I don't give a shit about these when they're shamelessly dumped on Disney Plus like that god-awful Home Alone reboot, but they make sure to put the real moneymakers in theaters every now and then. Basically anything from the Renaissance era gets a one-way ticket to cinemas for a couple weeks to then be dumped on Disney Plus where it can be forgotten with the rest of them. I can't wait until people have completely forgotten about these remakes, and so we start to see Disney try and remake The Lion King. Oh boy! But really, if we look past the titles, what is Disney putting out this year? What are they providing you that's worth any substance? Well, we've got a sequel, a remake, a Pixar movie, a sequel, a remake, a sequel, and Wish. Other than the couple animated features, they're really offering you nothing here. Nothing at all. Just a load of tripe that they're trying to bank off you recognizing a name or a piece of iconography. And that's not to speak on the actual quality of all these movies. I liked Guardians 3 quite a bit. Elemental was alright, and, well, other than that, I've only seen the Little Mermaid remake.
Remember my song in the swamp when I was like,
It sucks. I just don't understand how you can expect to keep people excited about this year after year. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 10 times. The advertising for these movies is either non-existent, or so desperate to capitalize on you just paying to see it because it has the Disney logo attached along with something you remember from your childhood. Basically, the entire marketing for Wish seemed to be based on trying to create the next big TikTok song, along with constantly going, we are Disney, don't forget we made Aladdin and Little Mermaid, and just ignore all the bad ones because, wow, Moana. You like Moana, don't you? Don't you? It sure doesn't help the poor advertising that 2023 also marked an event that indirectly caused the marketing for their movies to suffer. That being... 2. The 2023 writers/actors strike. Gonna mostly focus on the actors strike right now because the writers strike will come into play later, but the gist of it is, most studios are not paying fair wages to the people who actually create the content they profit off, which has reached a breaking point now that streaming has by far become the most preferred way for people to enjoy their favorite shows and movies. The problem with this is that there hasn't been any definitive fair rules in place for actors receiving royalties based on how many minutes of watch time their show or movie got on streaming, meaning a majority of that money gets pocketed by the CEOs, not the actors and especially not the writers. And so in these 118 days of the actors being on strike, Disney realized they had a tiny little problem. That being, per the union's rules, no actor can do any press for their upcoming films during the strike, meaning Disney now has an even bigger issue on their hands here because they can't have the actors advertise the movies they've been pumping so much money into, most of their exposure only coming from trailers and posters. So worst of all, these movies are now relying on whether or not the film actually looks good. And 9 times out of 10, what do you know? That answer is a big fat no. They're relying on the fact that they're Disney, at a point in time where people have never been more pissed off at studios for underpaying employees. Well, they could just end the strike, right? Wrong. See, with a strike like this, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, if you don't give in to demands and stretch out the strike for as long as possible, sure, you could probably get a better deal and show how resilient you are as a company, but it also means for all those months you had nobody working on new stuff, setting your entire production schedule back. However, if you give in too soon, you look weak to the industry. You wouldn't want those pesky workers getting too greedy now and demanding a livable wage. You want to make them struggle so much that they're so relieved the strike is ending that they don't ever want to even think about starting up a new strike for years. People are working for you but they're more expensive now, or you're saving money but have nothing to put out. A decision that, as we'll soon see, is really going to end up biting them in the ass in the new year as we approach my third reason for Disney's fallen empire, that being number 3, fatigue. Not superhero fatigue, not Marvel fatigue, Disney fatigue. Whether or not they realize it, people are getting sick of these safe-ass movies. Movies that don't challenge them, movies that are simply made to be watched and then forgotten about. Disney has been banking on nostalgia so much that people are actively getting sick of being pandered to, and they're starting to run out of things for you to even be nostalgic for. I can't imagine we're gonna start seeing them do live-action versions of Home on the Range or, I don't know, Chicken Little. And it's only now we've begun seeing them rely more heavily on remakes for movies that, sure, people remember fondly, but not enough to want to pay to see it again with different actors, and the box office is reflecting that. Disney have this issue where they're seemingly so big, too big to feel, that their release schedule for a year primarily consists of a handful of big-budget releases that realistically are just not going to make that money back. But at one point they did. Look at the box office for the live-action Aladdin versus the live-action Little Mermaid. I'd argue the Little Mermaid remake is a better movie than Aladdin, yet only one of these films broke $1 billion. This isn't a COVID thing anymore. This is people starting to think about what's actually worth their time and money. Instead of doing the smart thing and putting all their money into a bunch of tiny budgeted films that have the potential to rake in massive profits like a company such as Blumhouse does, who also don't have the best movies around admittedly. But Jason Blum, if anything, is a smart businessman and has perfected the art of making bank. Instead of this, Disney has chosen to put all their eggs in a small handful of baskets. One of these movies failing could result in massive profit losses for the company as a whole. Now, what if almost every one of these films were a failure? Like that studio ending? I don't think we're ever going to see Marvel on the same scale we once did. Just like Star Wars. All it took was a couple films to not make $1 billion, and they started dumping that shit directly to Disney+. What's even worse is that because of said actor and writer strikes, just about every major Disney release next year has been delayed, in a lot of cases until 2025. They're not going to be making any money off movies they can't release, and because these productions are so massive, any small shakeup like this can cause massive ramifications on the film as a whole. Which probably means they'll come out bad, which means nobody wants to see them, which means disaster. But at this point in time, here and now, we're stuck with Wish. A movie that wants to revel in and celebrate Disney, at a point in time when Disney's reputation has never been worse. I've seen a lot of folks blaming Wish's failure on a boycott. When the movie was doing poorly, people claimed it was because everyone was boycotting the company due to how they handled the strike. Then when one of their movies even does slightly well, people say, "See, there is no real boycott here. People still want to watch these movies." And I don't agree with either of these sides. A Twitter boycott is not going to affect Disney's bottom line, and your average person does not give a shit about most of their output this year. And it's not for any ulterior reason, it's not black and white. It's simply a culmination of a bunch of different issues that have been building up for a long time. From delays to unfair treatment of staff, to just making bad movies that people don't want to see. It's becoming more and more clear by the day that Disney sees you as nothing more than a dollar sign. And so trying to give us a celebration like Wish just comes off kinda hollow and unearned. This is not the downfall of Disney. I really don't think they're going anywhere. If anything, they'll just tone it back until faith in them picks back up, in which the cycle can repeat, as it always does. But I guess until we see what happens next, I'll hold my tongue from here. Holding my tongue? Not gonna— Okay, well, first of all, that's really how you're describing the likes of Aquafina the Reppin' Seagull, and Indiana Jones that looks like he could be my fucking granddad? When the fuck did you ever focus on quality over quantity? Never mind 2023, the year you released fucking Haunted Mansion. Fuck me, does anyone actually believe this shit? Fuck this, I'm going to bed.